Hey folks, David Duncan here. I've been a strategic brand planner on multinational brands for over 30 years. Today I'm here to talk to you about one of our main functions, the communication brief. Before I do that, imagine you are the captain in charge of a flight from Atlanta to New York. There's a ton of planning that goes into that flight and lots of people involved in making it happen. Your flight has one key document that makes you and your aircraft get to New York safely and on time. The flight plan. The flight plan gets input from and is shared with many interested parties. Passengers, sales, cargo, air traffic control, weather, fuelers, baggage, caterers, cleaners, etc., etc. So many more. The flight plan puts the best flight in place and makes sure everybody knows what is going to happen. We, fellow planners, have our flight plan. It is called the communication brief, and while many contribute to it and many rely upon it, the client winds up approving it. It really is our baby. Sticking with my aviation theme, I'm going to give you a high-level view of the brief. You'll need to consult your textbook, of course. This is not meant to be a replacement, and you can find all the details you need in each section of the outline. Before we dig in, let's look at how to create a brilliant brief. What makes a brilliant brief? First of all, buy-in. And that sounds like it's motherhood and you'd expect that, but many briefs have tried to fly without buy-in and they don't. First of all, we all know we have many stakeholders, and we have to get their input and we have to get their buy-in. Senior management buy-in is not enough. Everybody must buy in. Lack of buy-in will show up and kill the effort. If you aren't persuading a certain group that is working with this brief, the creatives, for example, they will either subtly or not so subtly push back. Make sure everybody sees it, understands it, and can work with it. You need everyone working from the same page because you want all efforts to be in the same direction and you want all oars paddling the boat in the same direction. And besides, you want to share the vision, and you want to get most out of each aspect of the plan. And the best way to do that is to have it come together cohesively and have it come from the source of one. The second thing you want to do in creating a brilliant brief is have great inspiration. You want to create empathy that everyone can access. You don't want to just tell them facts and figures. You want to have them feel the story as it is outlined in your brief, so that they can bring it to life in the various ways that they're tasked to do. So use real life examples. Really try to not just get through to their brain, but through to their heart. And let them feel the pain of the problem and the joy of the solution. The third thing you want to be mindful of is being concise. A great creative director once said to me, "There's no freedom like that of a tight brief." Going halfway and not actually closing the thought on strategy is chaos. You need to clearly articulate the plan and take it to its resolution. And by the way, focus on what matters. It's good to have dense detail. It's bad to have quantity for the sake of quantity. Go for quality. The fourth thing is, this is a living document and you should treat it as such. When you consider how much the world is changing these days, you really need a brief that keeps up. And believe me, there are times where you can write a brief only to find that a week later it's out of date. It should be evaluated and evolved on a continuous basis. The fifth thing is, be realistic. Don't you set yourself up for easy failure or untrue success. If you're going to say, we're growing sales 5% or whatever, know if that's a realistic number. Check the historical numbers. That might be too low. It might be too high. But the thing is, when you're judged on the success or failure of the campaigns that you're working on, you want to give yourself a fair shot for success, but also stretch yourself at the same time. And finally, measure, measure, measure. If you were investing in the stock market, you would be investing with some form of expectation of return. And you would be checking your stocks to find out if you're getting it. It's no different here. Outcomes must be measurable on brand terms, so things like awareness or comprehension, And of course on business terms, market share, sales, profit, etc. You might want to consider ready, fire, aim as a means of measurement. Now you're going to say to me, isn't it ready, aim, fire? And the answer is, well, yes. But sometimes you want to use your performance to achieve perfection. So the example is, I didn't hit the bullseye. It's 3 inches down. But you know what? That data tells me to pull my gun up a little bit. So that's what ready, fire, aim means. And just because you're not achieving success in the success you want to achieve when you're doing measurement, it doesn't mean it's a failure. It means that you can use that data to recalibrate and change some of the details of your campaign to ultimately fix what you need to do. Just keep using the data. And a shared vision will get the most out of each aspect of the plan. I talked about how many people touch this plan and help make it happen. Everybody needs to know whether they're doing a good job, whether it's delivering the way it's supposed to, and if it's not delivering the way it's supposed to, what do we need to do differently in order to make that happen? What are the elements of a great brief? Well, here's where you want to pull your textbook out. I've followed this very loosely, but hopefully the ideas are very much the same, and by listening to what I have to say and reading through your textbook, you'll get a really positive effort for understanding what are the elements of a great brief. The first and most important section of a brief is the objective or the goal. What is the outcome we expect to see? What exactly do we want to be? This is not about how we will get there. This is about where we want to be and when. Another way to express this is, what problem are you trying to solve? Or how are we making lives better for people? The goal is usually expressed in just one sentence. Second, client, product, and service. This is pretty straightforward, but you do need to spend a lot of time understanding what it is that you're selling. So what is our product or service or combination of the two? What's our current brand image? Not where do we want to be yet, but where are we today? And let's look at the good, the bad, and the ugly when it comes to what do people think of our brand. We also want to look at features and benefits. And a feature and a benefit are related, but they're not the same thing. A feature is something that the product or service does. The benefit is how what that does makes my life better. And finally, I recommend you do a SWOT analysis. That's strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. That way you will get a very good understanding of where you sit with your client, with their product, and/or their service. Third is the all-important target audience. Who are we talking to, both demographically and psychographically? Demographically are sort of the hard facts of who these people are. What's their gender? How much money do they make? How much education do they get? Where do they live? So on and so forth. And psychographically is more about their values in life. Are they more conservative or liberal? Are they the type of people that are hard driving, or are they type B? So on and so forth. So again, that's more of a sort of emotive, values-driven means by which to measure who your target audience is. And then what we want to do is understand what do they think, what do they feel, and what do they do today as related to life and our category. And then we have to understand through what we're going to be doing with our strategy, what behavior are we trying to change? What are we asking them to do differently than they're doing in their life today? So ultimately, with the target, we want to be able to say, not only what do they think and feel and do today, but what do we want them to think and feel and do tomorrow? Competitors. We obviously need to understand as much as we can about our competitors. Who are they? What are our direct and indirect competitors? If I'm an airline, my direct competitors might be American Airlines, Delta, United, Spirit, whomever. But I also need to look at my indirect competitors. Again, if I'm an airline, my indirect competitors are driving instead of flying. It might be taking a Zoom meeting instead of having everyone get together. So we, again, need to understand direct and indirect. What's our brand share? Are we the leader? Are we the follower? Are we somewhere in between? What's our brand image and how does it compare to the brand image of others in the categories? And why is the leader the leader? Let's look at their brand image. And why are the followers, or the ones that are dropping off, doing just that? Take a look at their brand image, and there's a good chance that might be contributing to the problem. And you also want to obviously say, who's most vulnerable? Who can I attack to gain more market share? And vulnerability may happen in a number of different areas. It might be a brand that's overpriced. It might be a brand that is aloof in its image. It might be a brand that used to have a quality product but has really dropped in quality. Those are all vulnerabilities that you can go after to try to steal market share. And finally, you want to attack brands through your USP. It's a very old Ted Bates acronym for unique selling proposition. And it's what is the thing that you can say for your brand that nobody else can say. And I like to take that P in the USP and sort of have it be a little bit bigger and work on two different levels. So the unique selling proposition is made up of a unique selling product, what's unique about my product, but it's also a unique selling personality. How's my brand image different and better than my competitors out there? Number 5, and we've just been talking about this, is brand image. And it's important to understand that brand image is not just what you say or how you look. It's very much like being a person. What you say and how you look in some ways defines who you are. But it's what you do that really matters when it comes to defining the image that you create for yourself. And it's no different for brands. So when you're coming together and creating a campaign and you're coming together with words and a message and a look, don't stop there. Okay, number 6 is the promise. And this is something that is dead simple, but it's so hard to do. It really is, what is the idea that will incite and change behavior? And it really has to be anchored in reality, because that's a hard thing to do. To get people to change and do something differently, or to change their beliefs, or to change their behaviors, is really not easy. The way you probably might want to best articulate a promise is to finish off a sentence that starts, hey, you should buy this product because. And then you want to be as motivating as you possibly can. And you want to talk about what the product is and why it's going to make somebody's life better. Number 7, reasons to believe. That's self-explanatory, but incredibly important. How do you back up the promise? And make sure you use facts. Okay? Because a promise that isn't backed up often isn't a promise at all. And it does not take consumers long to figure that out. They have very finely tuned BS meters. And the last one, number 8, is considerations and regulatory. And that's all the important boilerplate stuff that matters. So how can you use our logo? What's our tagline? What's our official colors? So on and so forth might be considerations. Regulatory might be if you're in a certain industry that is highly regulated, like spirits and alcohol. You need to understand the rules of how you can, portray the product and things you can and cannot say and do when it comes to advertising and so on. I'm going to give you one last thought. In strategy, your thinking is your product. Your audience is the client, the creatives, and the account team. And your job ultimately is to make them buy into, believe, and be inspired by your thoughts. There you have it, folks. The king of communication documents, the brief.